Something that's on my heart today, briefly, and that's called process. You know, many times in life we want things, but we don't realize that the only way for us to get things are for us to really fully understand that we have to embrace the process. You see, there's something called the law of process, and many times we don't realize, but there are principles that are involved in us being able to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish in our life. And so a lot of times we want it like yesterday, but we don't understand the power of embracing our process, the power of realizing that there's certain things that we have to go through in order to get ourselves to the very destination that we desire to get to. And so we have to realize that, you know, it's an everyday thing in which we begin to develop, in which we begin to grow, in which we begin to, you know, become what we need to become in order to now allow the things that we want to see manifested in our lives. And so a lot of times we want to abort the process, right? That's when we quit. That's when we give up. Or we want to not even have to go through the process. We just want it just like this. But coming from a woman who I truly can tell you, I failed for 20 plus years in an industry that I wanted to find some success in, I have to definitely tell you that I began to fully understand the law of process and understanding that, you know what, nothing happened to me, but every failure was really something that was failing me forward. And so when we grab a hold of that and we begin to realize that it's an everyday thing and that we cannot look at the things that we go through, the daily challenges, the things that we have to jump over, the hurdles, the circumstances, and, you know, everything that's a part of the process, we have to look at that as a positive thing, turn that thing from a negative into a positive thing, realizing that the greater the struggles, the greater the challenges, the greater the victory will be when we decide to embrace the process that God has given us for our life, knowing that, you know what, every individual has an individual process. So my process may not be your process. Your process may not be the next person's process. But we also have to understand that, you know what, there's different phases that we go through in life. And so when we understand that there are different phases that we have to go through when it comes time to this process, you see, many times as we go through the stages called growth, right? We don't fully understand that in the very beginning. You know, a lot of times it's because, you know, we don't do certain things because we don't know what we know, right? We don't know what we don't know, right? That's the first phase. We really don't know what we don't know. And really and truly, that can kind of be called ignorance, right? Where you're at this stage in life in which you want something different, but you just don't know what you don't know. And we have to realize that it doesn't matter that we don't know the things, right? But we just have to act, right? Kind of like that ignorance on fire, begin to move, begin to do, right? And so, but the problem is that a lot of times when we don't know what we don't know, and that ignorance can be something that ends up hurting us because we don't decide to act. We don't decide to be that person that becomes that ignorance on fire just to jump in there and just to do some things in order to bring about that change. So that's the first phase. And, you know, it's unfortunate that a lot of people end up staying in that phase because that's where a lot of excuses are made. I don't know what I don't know. I am just me. Take me or leave me. You know, all of these excuses that we end up making, not realizing that, you know what, the only way for us to change, the only way for us to really embrace our process is that we have to make a decision to begin to grow. And then once we begin to make that decision, we decide that, you know what, I'm not going to be ignorant in this situation. I want change. So therefore, I have to be the change. I have to become the change in order to now bring about the change. Then what will happen is we start to move ourselves into that second phase. And that second phase is I know what I don't know. That's when we start to move into realizing and recognize, okay, I no longer an excuse, right? I can't sit back and say, you know what, I don't know what I don't know. But now you start to move into that phase where you start to think differently. You realize that you have the power to change. And so now you begin to move into that phase in which you say, you know what, I know what I don't know. So therefore, since I know what I don't know, now I need to do things differently in order to begin to grow. You have to decide that, you know what, it's time for change. And so now because you made that decision, because you know what you don't know, and now you begin to move differently, you begin to act differently, you begin to realize that you got to grow. You begin to realize that, you know, words have creative power. You begin to realize that faith without works is dead. So you got to get up and you got to put in some work in order to bring about the change. And so now you begin to move from that second phase in life, right? In this thing called process, embracing our process, and to now getting to the point to where, you know what, I know these things And so now I got to grow, right? I got to grow in order for it to now begin to show. And so now you begin to do the things because now you understand growth. You understand that, you know what, I know what I don't know, and now I got to grow so that I can lead by example, so that now the things that I am putting into myself, because I'm acting upon these things, now they're going to begin to show, because now I understand what I need to do in order to now get this thing done. And so that's another phase in which we begin to prepare for what's next, because preparation is a key to now manifesting and getting the things that we desire to have in our life. And the only way for us to prepare is for us to now take the time to really assess the situation, take the time to understand the things that we don't know, that we need to know in order to grow, so that we can grow, so that we can go, so that we can become. It's called process. It's being able to develop ourselves daily. It's not going to happen in just one day, right? The law of process is just that. You got to go through the fire. You got to become. You got to endure. You have to embrace. You have to realize that, you know what, things take time. It's called process. Everything, you know, that's great. Everything that's big was once small. Everything that has become was once something that now grew into whatever it was supposed to become. That butterfly starts off as that caterpillar that literally in the cocoon has to crawl on the ground, then one day sprouts them incredible wings, right? Because it now knows that, you know what, I know, and I have to grow, and so now I have to start to show, right? And so just whatever it is, even the bamboo tree that starts off, you know, as this little seed that literally you take and you water it, and it doesn't show, but all of a sudden 5 years later, it begins to just sprout up, right? And all of a sudden you now begin to see the fruit of the very things that you began to pour into you, because you understand that now you know, now you got to grow. And so now you're moving from phase to phase. And then you get yourself to that fourth phase where you say, you know what, I simply got to go, for real. I simply got to go because I know what I know. I know what I need to do. And so now it's time to execute. It's time to bring forth some results. It's time to do it. It's time to not worry about what everybody else has to think. But you have to really fully understand that it's process, that you have purpose, and that your purpose is definitely going to be connected to all of the pain, all of everything that you got to go through. And now as you are now grabbing a hold of the process and now finding your passion, really realizing that your passion and your purpose are directly connected. And now you just get up and you just do, and you're executing things in your life. You're beginning to bring about the change because you understand that nothing happens to you. Every single thing happens for you. And so you get up every day and you begin to act. You begin to do. You begin to speak. You begin to realize that that vision is yet for an appointed time. So you keep that vision in front of you, not allowing yourself to remain in that excuse phase, that first phase that I talked about, that so many people decide to stay in. It's a choice. It's called mediocrity. It's called being average. It's called allowing yourself to be comfortable in this life in which we were not designed to be comfortable. We were designed to be stretched to all get out. It's called pride. Many times, because process is painful, we end up allowing ourselves to stay in that same position, to never grow, to not develop ourselves daily, to not understand that we have to embrace our process, to realize that we cannot make excuses in life. It's not about saying, you know what, I just don't know what I don't know. No, that's an excuse. And so you make a decision and you realize that, you know what, now I got to put myself in a position so that I can know what I need to know, right? And now that I know what I need to know, now it's time to grow. And it's going to start once I begin to grow, things are going to begin to show. I got to prepare for the next. I got to pay the price in order to get myself to the next. And now that I know what I need to know, and I know that I got to go, I have to grow, I have to do, I have to become, then I'm simply going to get up every single day and I'm going to do what's necessary in order to manifest the very things that I want to become my reality. So process. Ladies and gentlemen, that was on my heart this morning. So I just wanted to talk to you guys and say the law of process is real. Embrace your process and never give up.